It was good to see Michael Porter Jr. in the building tonight at Ball Arena, but the Nuggets got the last laugh. Jamal Murray dominates in the clutch. Michael Porter's going to be an all-star, but I'm going to tell you why it is okay, Nuggets fans, that this trade worked out for both sides. Next here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode and being an everydayer, being a part of our community and making us your first listen here at Locked On Nuggets. My name is Ryan Blackburn, host here for Locked On. Also over at Mile High Sports, you can check out the Pickaxe and Roll podcast, where I'm going to go live tomorrow at noon as well to be able to talk about this game and talk about some additional things. Lots of great stuff from the Nuggets tonight. Lots of shaky stuff from the Nuggets tonight, but it was mostly about Michael Porter Jr. and his return to the Mile High City. Did a pregame presser actually with media. I was not there. Been in a significant amount of pain lately, so I've stayed home. I've stayed off my feet. Ankle's been giving me a lot of issues. So I will be better. I'll be back, but I wasn't able to be at that particular presser. But there's a lot of stuff still to get into, and so many amazing quotes that Mike was able to give to the media tonight, just about his experience with Denver and some of the things that he's learned, some of the things that he's improved at and whatnot. Lots of great stuff to get into. But before we do, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Okay, Denver gets the win tonight and does a really good job of staying the course. They got up early in this game. They did a lot of great work early, led by Tim Hardaway Jr. He was amazing in this game. But then they really were shaky at that point. Tony, Matt is off tonight. He will be back. Actually, there's a general strike that's happening tomorrow around the nation, so I'm not sure if Matt is going to do a show or not. Swipe and I will do a show in the afternoon, but we'll see what happens in the evening. But Matt is off tonight. He's been extremely busy. But Denver did such a great job tonight of staying the course, despite the fact that things clearly weren't good, clearly were not doing well. It felt like the Nuggets were going to let this one slip. It felt like they were going to let it go. They only scored 15 points in the third quarter by himself. And like you look up and down at some of the numbers, Jonas Valanciunas had 12 points, but he was 4 of 11 from the field, and it was a pretty shaky 4 of 11. Spencer Jones had 1 point, 1 rebound in this game in his 15 minutes and was a minus 23. What a crooked number that was. Jalen Pickett really looking weird in some of his minutes over the course of this time. And so those are a couple of the starters. And Peyton Watson, good game, up and down game, but certainly a little bit shaky at times. And so the Nuggets needed a pick-me-up. They needed a pick-me-up, especially in that fourth quarter, and were able to stabilize just a little bit. I thought Julian Strawther gave some good minutes. I thought Bruce Brown gave some good minutes. Obviously, Tim Hardaway Jr. was great with 25 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and shot 7 of 11 from 3. He was hot mostly in the first half and got Denver that big lead. But that's what it looked for, and it was just a nice bounce back from Tim, who had been struggling, as you guys well know, over the course of the last week or so. And so he's really done this well, and Denver absolutely needed it. But Michael Porter Jr. caught fire. It was really cool to see him shooting in Ball Arena once again. He was just rising up, firing, taking egregious shots because, I mean, he can make it. There's a stat that was going around earlier today from B-Ball Index, who does a really good background work on analytics in the NBA and has their own sort of adjustments on how they categorize some certain things. And in terms of three-point shot makers, Michael Porter Jr. and Luka Doncic are the top two in terms of three-point shot difficulty. And you can see why, because when Michael Porter comes off of a screen and catches the ball and sees two defenders in front of him, he's fading away from three. It doesn't matter. He's rising up over these contests because he's a 6'10" capable shooter and has the ultimate green light at this point, especially in a game like this against his former team. You best believe that Jordi Fernandez, head coach of the Brooklyn Nets and also former assistant with the Nuggets, was very clearly going to let him cook and trying to run everything through him. And so Mike had 38 points, and it was a very impressive performance. 7 of 15 from three. Reckless abandon out there, just getting up these shots, and was a plus 12 in a game that they lost by 4, and he played 37 minutes. So the problem was the bench, and the problem for Brooklyn is that they rested so many guys. They had so many different players that were out. They were unable to kind of make up the gap and make up the difference with their bench unit. They had a whole bunch of, as I mentioned, a whole bunch of starters out. And so you've got guys like Ben Saraf, Jalen Wilson, Tyrese Martin, Drake Powell. I was actually pretty impressed with Drake Powell for them. Day'Ron Sharpe was great on the offensive glass and was giving the business to Zeke Naji in the first quarter. I was very frustrated with Zeke. And it looked like the momentum was going against Denver kind of into the final 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. And then Jamal Murray takes over. Jamal Murray straightens it out, figures it out, and does a lot of good things for the Nuggets down the stretch. He set up Jonas Valanciunas for an and one right under the basket. It was a really impressive pass, really impressive delivery. There were some off-balance buckets that he had. He had a driving dunk at one point and finished with an and one. It was a really great Jamal performance. And Perez notices only played 33 minutes is really good. I 100% agree. It was one of the first things that I noticed when I was doing the rotation chart tonight. On pace for 33 minutes. Have you seen that from Jamal Murray in a long time? No, you have not. It is the only time when Jamal Murray plays under 35 is when the Nuggets are losing in a blowout or winning in a blowout. So it's kind of nice for them to do it this way. And it was because they played 10 guys. And also the bench was pretty solid overall, even though there were some weaknesses here or there. Like, getting 22 minutes from Julian Strawther off the bench is a big deal. 13 minutes from Hunter Tyson off the bench was a big deal. Even if you don't love all of what it brought, it still gave Denver some flexibility. And so really good stuff from Jamal Murray. Efficiency was great. Denver as a team shot 50% from three, led by Tim Hardaway, 7 of 11 from three. Of course, Jamal Murray went 2 of 3 and also went 7 of 7 from the free throw line. That was nice to see. Jonas Valanciunas made a couple of clutch free throws as well down the stretch. Denver was up 105-103. And then Jonas Valanciunas got fouled and he made 2 in the pressure cooker. So that was, again, very impressive stuff. It's what a good veteran does. Denver was on the poor end of some free throw shooting luck in the last game. This time they get some good free throw shooting luck down the stretch. It's a really big deal. And so Denver guts it out. This was not going to be so it's not a crazy win. I'm not going to sit here and belabor the point. The Brooklyn Nets are a bad team led by Michael Porter Jr. and one of the only healthy guys that they had out there that's been a consistent contributor for them. They've got plenty of guys that they sat, including Igor Demin, who was amazing for so much of the games against Denver, much of the game against Denver, the first time around that these two teams played, but also just doing crazy things in addition to that. So there's a lot of guys that Brooklyn was missing, but the Nuggets are still missing 4 starters, guys. It's okay to take solace in a win when Denver's losing 4 starters. I said this on Pickaxe, I think a couple of days ago. I wouldn't have been surprised if Denver went 0-4 on this homestand. You lose to Detroit, you could lose to Brooklyn, and they nearly did. The Clippers are going to come in on multiple days rest. They last played on Tuesday against the Utah Jazz. So they're rested, they're fine, they're ready to go. But Denver's going to be tired tomorrow. So kind of maybe chalk that one up as a loss, or at least you're at a major disadvantage. And then you've got the freaking OKC Thunder on Sunday, who are not unbeatable at this point, but they're a really good team. So if Denver hadn't won this game, like you're looking at some pretty shaky stuff and a pretty shaky homestand. So the fact that they got this one was a big deal. I don't care how you get it. It doesn't matter if it's not pretty. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. You just have to find it one way or the other. And I'm glad Denver was able to do it. And you should be too. You should stop picking at the details in this particular game. There's no reason to. Denver's just in survival mode at this point, especially with the Aaron Gordon news that just came out. We're going to address that in the third segment. We're going to talk about Michael Porter and his reunion with Denver in the second segment. And I'm going to give you my take. I think both Michael Porter and the Denver Nuggets are better off for this, despite the fact that Michael Porter has played so gosh darn well over the course of his time with Brooklyn. We're going to talk about it next here on Locked On Nuggets.
I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage, we got tuition, we got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. That's ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Application times and rates may vary.
All right, we are back. Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The NBA trade deadline is basically here, and we want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club to help you get ready. I know that we've advertised this before. I brought multiple trade proposals to Everydayer Club. I started off the week with a full article, full ideas of what Denver's going to do, what it's going to look like for Denver. And there's we got a report out. I think it was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday, that basically lines up exactly with what I was talking about. So we do know what we're talking about here, and we've got some exclusive content over at Everydayer Club that shares some very specific proposals. The Discord channel was popping tonight. It was insane how many people were in there talking. It keeps flooding. We actually got notes today from one of the runners, or one of the showrunners over at Locked On, says your channel's doing really well on this. So thank you guys for subscribing. It has been really cool. If you want a free month on Everydayer Club, you have to sign up before February 5th and use promo code DEADLINE, as in the trade deadline, DEADLINE. Use promo code DEADLINE. You get 1 month free. Just tap in. You get the ad-free versions of the show. You get a whole bunch of excellent content. Okay, let's talk about the Michael Porter reunion now. Again, it was a cool emotional moment getting to see him react to the video, the tribute video that they played for him. There's a whole bunch that you like to see. You remember, I think, that Mike has been here he was here for 7 years. He didn't play for all 7 of those years. He actually only played for 5 of them because he was out for the 18-19 season. He was basically out for the 21-22 season that leaves 2020, 2021, 2023, 2024, 2025. So he really only had 5 full years with the Nuggets, but he made the most of it and grew as a player, grew as a person during that time. And there were plenty of times where there's a lot of people that wanted him to be used even more. A lot of, I remember even going back to the bubble where he was just starting to break out. He was you could see the talent, you could see the overall direction that this thing was going to go. But the Nuggets were always reticent about handing him the keys, about leapfrogging the overall pecking order that Jokic and Murray had established. I think one of the failings of Michael Malone during his tenure in Denver is that he always had a pecking order. Whether it was written down, whether it was like spelled out to guys, or whether it was just in the way that Malone sort of ran the ship, he always had his guys. He always had the pecking order. He always had his trust guys. And Michael Porter took a long time to become a trust guy. And then it became inevitable that he had to be. But even then, like, there were some times where you could see the talent of what he could do, what he could bring if the Nuggets were willing to like really amp up his touches, really amp up the shot attempts and things like that. But as Michael Porter said in his presser before the game today, like with Denver, he wasn't practicing shooting these tough shots on a consistent basis. He wasn't getting ready for that kind of style. He was getting ready for open shots because Nikola Jokic generates open shots. Jamal Murray generates open shots. Those guys take so much attention in the middle of the floor that Mike was always on the periphery. Mike was always orbiting around it, but not necessarily fully a part of it all the time. And so there's regret there. There's obviously regret there. It didn't fully work out. But again, like one of the reasons why Denver had to trade Porter was because of the contract. But as you can see now, like contract wasn't entirely misplaced. Tim Connolly and company, they knew what they saw. They knew the talent. They understood the talent. It just didn't fully work out. And I do think that the key moment there was the third back surgery. It was the third back surgery that he had at the beginning of the 2021-22 season. After that, I think, and like I don't have this fully confirmed, I think the focus for the organization and for Michael Malone changed because you just don't know whether, like, if you're going to keep investing in the development of somebody like that, you want to make sure that they're there. You want to make sure that they are fully intact, that they, like, if you're building the identity of a team around a player, then you always have to play. You always have to be a part of it. And so it was always going to be difficult, especially when you're trying to fit in another couple of young guys. Like, keep in mind, Jokic was young. Murray was young. Like, they established, like, upending that pecking order in order to make this happen was always going to be difficult. And so Denver did the best that they could. They won a championship, but it did happen because everybody sacrificed. Because I remember being in San Diego before that championship run, like for a training camp, and the common refrain on a consistent basis was, we need Michael Porter to run to the corner and transition. We need him to get to the corner. And if you're Mike, you're thinking, I'm probably not going to touch the ball. Like, why am I doing this on a consistent basis? But it was the right thing to do for that team at that time. And then that team changed and needs changed. And the Nuggets probably needed more at various points from Mike. And he wasn't fully prepared for it because he wasn't practicing it, because that wasn't what he was what he was asked to do. And then they immediately had to have him ramp up and he wasn't fully ready. Now he has really changed his mentality in Brooklyn. He's playing free. And it just doesn't surprise me that this is happening. I think I'm a little bit surprised to the degree that it has happened, but I do think that this is a win-win for both sides. I really do. And it's unfortunate that Cam Johnson has been out for as long as he has. He was starting to look really good, and this might feel a little bit different. And the feeling of this entire situation might be a little bit different if Cam was actually playing in these games and being able to show everybody, hey, I could eventually go get 20, 25 on a pretty consistent basis too. But he hasn't been able to show that because he's not out there. So people have forgotten. People forget that Cam Johnson is a really good basketball player and is absolutely good enough to help the Nuggets win a championship. But they needed somebody who was willing to kind of cater to the role, didn't necessarily need to have the ball in his hands a whole bunch, and could just meld his game around what the Nuggets needed at a cheaper price so that they could bring in guys like Jonas Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown. Like, I don't know if they get all those guys if Mike is still there. I actually feel pretty confident that they don't. So it's important that that is acknowledged. It's important that everybody acknowledge that, yeah, if David Adelman was running the show from the beginning, maybe Mike's role changes a little bit. Does he become a full-on all-star in Denver? No. Does Jamal Murray become an all-star if Michael Porter is still here? That's a question. I think that's actually a very fair question. Jamal was always trying to get Mike involved. I know a lot of people don't think that he was, but he was trying to get everybody involved too. So I do think that there was some pressure there between those two guys, and that the Nuggets, Porter, Murray, you can be happy about like the success and being around everybody and trying to do the best that you can. But it does not necessarily guarantee that it was the best possible situation for everybody involved. The best situation for Mike was to see him grow, was to let him spread his wings. But you can't do that in a Jokic offense. Now, would Mike have been pretty good in this situation if the Nuggets kind of let him have the same runway that like Peyton Watson has had over the course of the last couple of weeks? Yeah, absolutely. I think he would be able to do this exact same thing. Clearly, he's shown it in Brooklyn. But it would have to be a commitment from the beginning. And I do think that it got stale. I think that Mike understood that. The Nuggets understood that. And that's why it was perfectly reasonable to move on. I'd been calling it for a while. That just made sense. And I still think, despite the fact that Mike's going to be an all-star, I still think this makes sense. I still think this was the right call for everybody involved. And I'm just not surprised that we're in this position. Okay. Let's take a final break. When we come back, we are going to discuss the Aaron Gordon trade injury, Aaron Gordon injury news. I'm just so used to talking about trade deadline stuff right now. The Aaron Gordon injury news that came out earlier today. We will discuss all of that next here on Locked On Nuggets. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. There's so many options, and you can turn all of those predictions into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels huge. Perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting to kick from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you today by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. As somebody who is like, I have multiple jobs, I've got multiple streams of income, things have gotten pretty complicated for me. So having somebody and a service like TurboTax really does make sense. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every single deduction you can. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver. I'm very excited to try it out. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local tax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. All right, final segment. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, folks. Okay, let's get into this. Aaron Gordon. This is a really tough thing. Obviously, the injury that he sustained last Friday was a little bit more severe, and the Nuggets are being a little bit more cautious than I think people hoped. When Aaron Gordon said to David Adelman, and Adelman made this public, he said, well, Aaron doesn't think that this was as serious. He's hoping that this wasn't as serious, doesn't think it was as serious. The MRI clearly disagreed. The MRI clearly says that they need to be very cautious on this, and it's something that they are going to have to manage. And it's an unfortunate timing. It's not the worst timing in the world. Let me say it could have been worse. And Nuggets fans, it shouldn't be all doom and gloom. Save that for me. Because the All-Star break is coming up, Denver misses a week full of games. That could have been a full week that you also wouldn't have had Aaron Gordon for. Now think about it as like 3 to 5 weeks of missed games worth of time. And the All-Star break should be able to give Aaron at least a little bit of leeway, a little bit of flexibility to be able to get back and be right. But it is a concern. And there's a whole bunch of concerns that I think go into it. The first and foremost one is, what is Aaron Gordon going to look like when he comes back? Well, if it's 3 to 5 weeks, so you just kind of go through the timetable of it, it's not awesome. It's let me tell you, the actual timetable basically has him coming back from either early March to mid-March. I kind of think about it as like, March 1st to March 15th or so, which basically puts him in between game 61 and game 68, 69 or so. And so Denver just played game 48 on their schedule. March 19th, they're getting a game, or maybe it's March 18th. It's one of the two. I think March 18th, they're getting a game added to the calendar against the Memphis Grizzlies. So there's going to be a lot of games in that short amount of time, and the Nuggets are going to have a lot of time that they're missing Gordon for. So what's it going to look like? If he does come back, let's say he splits the difference on that timetable. Let's say he comes back around game 65. It's March 9th against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Game 65 would mean that he has 18 total chances, 18 total opportunities to get himself ready for the playoffs. I don't think that Aaron needs an extensive run-up. I don't think that he needs to play all of those games. I don't think he needs to play all of those minutes in order to be ready for the playoffs. There's something that, thinking about earlier, like he has so much chemistry and so much familiarity with this system and with this team that I don't think that he has to play a ton. Now, Aaron Gordon hasn't played with Christian Brown since game 12 of the season. He hasn't played with Cam Johnson since game 12 of the season. With Christian, it makes like it's understandable. Actually, I think he has played with Christian. Maybe there's a little bit of overlap there when Christian came back. But really, this is about Cam Johnson, and it's kind of about Peyton Watson and what he has shown and what he continues to show in a larger usage role. I'm just so curious what this team looks like when they are fully healthy and the dynamics that come to play. Who's going to start? Who's going to be playing significant minutes? Things like that. That I'm not sure who is like the trusted people yet. I think I know who's going to be the guys that are going to be out there when the going gets tough. And I think that Aaron's going to be one of them, but he has to be healthy in order to do that. And the Nuggets need to know who can play next to him, who can play next to Murray, who can play next to Jokic when the time comes too. We don't know if Cam Johnson's going to be back and ready to go. We don't know if Christian Brown's going to be back and ready to go. Does Peyton Watson kind of leapfrog over either of those guys in the consistent late game minutes? Do they still try to find time for Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been fantastic in late game situations this year as a floor spacer, somebody that the opposing team has to really fear? There's a lot of questions. So I'll be very curious to see what it looks like when AG does return. That's one thing I'm thinking about. Joey says, Ryan, how many more games can Joker miss before he's ineligible for MVP and all NBA? Let's do the math here real quick. He started missing games on December 31st. That was game 33. Denver just played game 48. So that is 16 total games. That basically he played 32 games, and so he's missed 16. If he misses 2 more games, Joker, then he is ineligible for MVP and all NBA. He would need to come back on Sunday and play all of the rest of the games in order to do that. He's not going to do that. I think that they are actually going to keep him out for a little bit. Snowwolf asks, when is Joker coming back? I think he'll probably be back after that Detroit game or after that OKC game. Whether he plays at Detroit on February 3rd, there's a back-to-back, second night of a back-to-back versus New York in Madison Square Garden on February 4th. Interestingly, I did see that NBC was using Jokic as the main promo for the game against OKC on Sunday night. So who knows? Maybe he is back by that point. We don't actually know, but it'll be interesting regardless. So it's a small factor. It's something that Nuggets fans obviously care about because you want to see Jokic credited with as much as possible in the time that he does. And he was the best player in the NBA this year, full stop. So it's annoying, but like you have to prioritize his health. This team is reminding me of two different teams. And this circles back to Aaron Gordon as well. This team reminds me of the 2022 Golden State Warriors, where Golden State, they have all of the chemistry in the world at that point. They have a team that's built around their core three guys. They brought in a couple of veterans, and Otto Porter Jr. got a random year from him. They got Gary Payton II to have a great year. They had a whole bunch of other guys that were just awesome contributors for that group, and they won a title centered around Steph Curry being amazing. At the end of that season, like last 15 games or so, I remember Steph going down with an injury, and Denver actually faced them in the first round of the playoffs. They actually brought Steph off the bench initially at that point and just getting him back into the flow of things, not putting a major burden on him. Denver couldn't do anything about it because they had so many issues guarding with Facundo Campazzo and Austin Rivers and guys like that. Like it wasn't going to happen. But like Denver had so much, like they were so compromised. Golden State that year, they won the title despite the fact that they had late injuries, they had major injuries, but they had so much chemistry that it didn't matter. This team also reminds me of the 2023-24 Nuggets, where like it's more injuries than they had that year, where it was really just one guy in Jamal who went down and was dealing with these lower leg injuries and these soft tissue injuries on a consistent basis that season. And he could just never get back. He never got right. He was injured the entire time. It was just an uncomfortable situation for a lot of people. And clearly it didn't work out. And clearly like him coming back, it just like he gutted it out and was good, but he wasn't at his peak performance. I bring that up because Aaron, to me, is kind of trending in that general direction. Like he's more susceptible, I think, now to some of the soft tissue injuries than he was before. And we're actually getting to a fight on the group chat with Matt and Swipa and I, just because Matt wants to give Aaron the benefit of the doubt that just because he had injuries in these last two seasons does not make him more susceptible. It's not like he's not just so old now that he's decrepit and going to fall off. Like Matt seems to think that I think that Aaron Gordon's going to fall off like crazy. I don't think he's going to fall off like crazy, but I do see the merit. I do see the value in trying to reduce his burden, especially during the regular season. And whether that means A, reducing his minutes, or B, bringing him off the bench. Like, I don't think that's an insult at this point. Aaron has clearly dealt with a lot from a physical perspective, and this is at least a conversation that the Nuggets are going to have like at some point, because he's going to miss half the year. It's a lot of time to miss. So Denver needs to develop their chemistry. Like he's not the only guy that's worried about injuries right now. Denver just needs to survive. But like I am thinking about Denver from a chemistry and connectivity standpoint. Like the locker room is clearly great. Locker room is clearly in a great place. This team is clicking on all cylinders from a culture standpoint, I think. But they also need to click on the court. It's been a while since they've played elite basketball. Some of that is because they haven't had 4 starters, including the best player in the world. Shocker. But I also do think that they are in a situation now where they're going to have to find some chemistry and some lineups that they like really, really quickly. Whether they will or not remains to be seen. I do think the Jokic comes back before the All-Star break. Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, I think they all come back before the All-Star break. Whether they do, I don't know. But like, I think it's on the table. And if that's the case, you really have to start figuring out who can play and the lineups that can play and the lineups that can't play. And they should be experimenting as much as possible trying to figure that out. It is much more difficult to experiment when you don't have your pieces to play. So we'll see what happens. But either way, good win for Denver tonight. They play again tomorrow night. We'll see about the content. We'll see about the game. Swipe and I should be back tomorrow in the afternoon. That is going to do it for this episode of Locked On Nuggets. Again, check out Everydayer Club in the description below. Click that link. Use code DEADLINE to go check out and get a month off free for Everydayer Club before the deadline ends. Everybody, have a great night. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.